nice weather today. Well, they say it's supposed to actually start raining tomorrow. I guess we'll see. And what did I read today? I thought this was kind of fascinating actually. You've often heard, for example, where people say don't fly your drones near traffic and all that, but how about this one? It's kind of interesting to think about. Apparently, the police here in Canada are warning people, if you fly your drone, let's just say, around an accident site, capture the photo or video of the incident, you could be, let's just say, I don't know, fined or something like that. This one says, OPP reminds drone operators it's illegal to operate a drone near emergency sites following Highway 417 fatal crash. As it says here, Ontario Provincial Police are reminding people that it is illegal to fly a drone over traffic collision sites after drone footage captured at a fatal crash on Highway 417 in Ottawa appeared online. Ontario Provincial Police say the woman was driving eastbound in the westbound lanes of the highway at the time of the crash. On Thursday morning, drone photos of the crash scene appeared on social media. Police say officers are aware that photos taken by a drone are circulating online, adding the victim's family had viewed the photos prior to being notified by officers. So that's kind of interesting too, because it makes you wonder, when did the person actually capture this? Was it before they actually arrived, for example? It says here, quote, "These photos contain images of the collision scene and the deceased female," police said in a statement. "We would like to remind the public that there can be unintended negative consequences for the family members when collision or crime scene photos are uploaded to social media sites." So that phrase, for example, would hold true. It doesn't matter what you're using. You could be out there as, let's just say, a regular bystander or some member of the media where you see an accident, you film it and you publish it online. Technically, you could argue it's, I guess, a moral issue, whether or not it's okay to show that, but you can't say it's, quote, let's just say, illegal. You're not allowed to do that and all that. It's a completely different topic. But as it goes on here saying, the OPP has reminded drone operators that it is against regulations to operate a drone over a traffic collision site. Saying here, Transport Canada's website says drone pilots are not allowed to fly within the security perimeter of a police or first responder emergency operation, such as a traffic accident. A drone flying near these areas may interfere with emergency personnel aircraft and the work of emergency personnel. Anyone caught violating the drone regulations can face a fine of up to $1,000. Yeah, so again, that's two completely different topics in terms of one, capturing what happened, and two, let's just say you're actually flying your drone or whatever, going across whatever perimeter it is that they establish. It's a little different. So here's the part to think about with the way they wrote it, for example. It's almost like if there's a traffic accident, for example, you're not allowed to capture it with your drone and all that, or let's just say fly over it, which technically wouldn't be true if you read this anyways, unless I'm interpreting it wrong, because this is what they're quoting here on the Transport Canada site anyways. It says emergency sites, drone pilots are not allowed to fly within the security perimeter of a police or first responder emergency operation such as a traffic accident. So in reading that, that's more about if you're there, for example, let's just say they taped everything up, then what they're saying is don't go like right into, like, for example, the scene like that they blocked off. I think that's pretty true for almost anything. It would be no difference than, let's just say, media, where the police could tape off a certain area where you can't actually go, let's just say, within it, but if you're outside of that, quote, perimeter per se, then you should technically be able to film it. It should be true with a drone too, unless someone's interpreting this in a different way. I mean, just on a random note too, it also says here, you must also avoid sites near disasters, forest fires, floods, earthquakes. Can you imagine that, where there's an earthquake right now and someone like me just decide to fly the drone up in the air to capture what it's like in terms of the situation? I mean, obviously it's more meant, for example, I would say anyways, where you don't interfere with, let's just say, emergency personnel. Kind of like saying here, a drone flying near these areas may interfere with emergency personnel aircraft and the work of the emergency personnel. If there's no one there and so forth and you're flying it within that time, I mean, it makes you think in terms of things like regulations and all that. Is it okay to be so over the top? Because what happens if you have, like, just say a corrupt police officer or something like that saying, oh, I don't want you to film like the scene of the crime or whatever, so we'll make it illegal or whatever. I mean, you have to think about that too. And just a little bit more details in terms of that, I guess, rule. This is what it specifically says in the aviation regulations for things like the prohibition emergency security perimeter. Saying here, No pilot shall operate a remotely piloted aircraft over or within the security perimeter established by a public authority in response to an emergency. So you can get a lawyer, for example, and interpret that, but yeah, again, to me, that would imply, for example, just like any other situation where if they tape it off and you're standing, let's just say, outside the quote perimeter, you can film it all you want. I mean, technically, there shouldn't be anything wrong with that. It says here, subsection does not apply to the operation of a remotely piloted aircraft for the purpose of an operation to save human life, a police operation, a firefighting operation, or other operation that is conducted in the service of a public authority. So I guess in that case, it's saying, hey, those guys, they can do it all they want. But yeah, it makes you think, like in this case here, how would you interpret that? Because I would interpret that just legally here is, if you're outside the quote perimeter, if you're flying around it with that little spot like they taped off or whatever, then it should be okay, because they don't make it clear in terms of when the drone was flying, when was it captured, was the police even there, for example? And again, it makes you think, should rules and stuff be so over the top and broad in this way where they could ban people from documenting a situation? It's one topic to say it's not good to show it because, again, like they say, the grieving families, they don't want to see it. But that's not a reason, in my opinion, to say it's completely illegal and you can weaponize like a law to say people aren't allowed to do it. I mean, think about it too, because again, this comes down to what I always say. It comes down to consistency in life. When there is a traffic accident, even nowadays, what's usually one of the first things you see from like a news media? A helicopter flying around and capturing the site, correct, of the situation. I mean, are you going to immediately say in that case, hey man, you captured this, illegal? No, you wouldn't, correct? As long as they're not interrupting the operations or anything like that. So why would you immediately say for like a drone, oh, you're not allowed to capture like a collision and so forth? That's ridiculous, isn't it? I mean, just in terms of that technicality too, can anyone like find or recollect anytime they've seen the news where a helicopter literally did, let's just say, fly over the accident site? Like, why would it be so different? Because it makes you wonder, like, here, is it really about safety or more about control? Like, you don't want people to show certain things. And more news about anti-drone systems, it seems, for the Olympics. And again, it seems like it's not turning out as they hope. This one says, tests expose worrying flaws in France's anti-drone system for the 2024 Olympics. As it says here, the anti-drone system parade has been especially developed to protect the Parisian skies throughout the July 26 September 8th Olympics and Paralympics, but various French media report that the system performed worse than expected during a March exercise. On two of the sites where parade was tested, it didn't work as well as expected. Put in the other words, parade stopped the drones, but within a much smaller perimeter than expected, an observer of the Coubertin LAD-2 exercise told the French weekly magazine. There are an estimated 3 million drones in France, many of them privately owned, and the police and the Interior Ministry are working hard to prevent any untimely flights over the capital, saying, quote, drones represent a very high-level threat because they are easy to use. There are a huge number of them in France, and converting them into weapons is simple and very affordable. It doesn't require much logistical organization. This is why French defense equipment groups, Thales and CS Group in consortium, won the French Defense Procurement Agency's tender to develop an anti-drone system back in April 2022. And interestingly enough, they also say with this system, they could actually, I guess, shoot the drone down too, I guess physically, if all this jamming and immobilization stuff doesn't work, because it says the system can also shoot down drones directly, but this is a last resort because the debris generated by such an explosion could injure or even kill people on the ground. Man, imagine spending all that money for it not to work as intended. fire here.
No, no.
Okay.
I'd rather leave the garbage, I just quickly burn it, you know what I mean?
All right, see you guys later.